Alvin and the Chipmunks is a complicated series, a simple gimmick that evolved into decades of attempts to become a global icon. But how did that happen? Where did the story go? Well, let's go on ahead and figure that whole thing out right now. Hi everybody, I'm here on my patio, just a nice day, taking it all in, got some lemonade. Let's talk about woodland creatures. Alvin and the Chipmunks are wildly inconsistent mascots in our world. I'm clueless as to how anything works, and to say the least, things fall apart there pretty instantaneously. So first off, Alvin and the Chipmunks actually has a pretty interesting origin story all the way back in the year of 1958, when a man by the name of Ross S. Bagdasarian was proceeding with his music career. In this year, he came up with what I would best describe as the idea being created. He was responsible for the iconic song of Witch Doctor, the one that goes like ooh ee ooh ah ah ting tang wada wada bing bang, that one. Anyway, it became a hit because Bagdasarian utilized a tape recorder to speed up his voice as the Witch Doctor, and I guess as a way to make it more profitable with his fame, he would go under the name of David Seville when releasing the novelty record. At the time, he was working under Liberty Records, and when they asked for another song, he decided to make this more profitable by putting his pitched up voice under 3 characters that he named after respective executives at Liberty Records. It led to the names of Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. In universe, based off the animated series in the 80s, their story first began where most little critters do, the forest. They have a mom, her name's Vinny. The first December after they were born saw a devastating winter, one where all the wildlife had to relocate to survive, and Vinny, knowing her kid wouldn't survive that journey, the 3 were dropped off and left behind in a basket at Dave's cabin, where he's struggling to make money. He finds the kiddos, finds out about their musical talent, they all make a successful song, the Chipmunks ruin a date for him, and then this causes conflict between both parties. A scary man tries to take them away for his benefit, and ultimately it all resolves when Dave and the Chipmunks decide that family's far more important. So from there, they move to LA where they can attain stardom. Their next release, Christmas Don't Be Late, released on November 17th, 1958, and decimated music forever. Gone were the days of Beethoven, medieval flutes, and some other third thing. The Chipmunks had a gimmick, and damn it, it stuck. So now all the Chipmunks would have to do is recreate famous songs with their pitches, or make mediocre albums at worst, and they would bang every time, if only for the fact they have silly high-pitched voices, and that's something we see all the way to today. This led to success that was, to say the least, because I'm pretty sure 99% of the people watching this weren't alive for this, a pretty big moment in Bagdasarian's career. He kept making albums, eventually produces an Alvin show in 1961. Now, it's important to note how big of a transformation of designs came from here. The original Chipmunks were ew. Now they all look different and got their own little quirks. Now they're color-coded, they got different silhouettes, and for some reason, Alvin's the tiny one, not Theodore. The personalities of the main 4 characters were finalized around this point. The dynamics would begin to get laid out all across this. Alvin was a little attention-seeking dipshit who's responsible for the majority of conflict initiation and leadership. Simon has glasses, therefore he's an intellectual. And Theodore, well, he's a very big boy with a very big heart, and by all means, he is the baby of the trio. And then as for Dave / Bagdasarian, he took the role of a father figure for the triplets. He has to be a parent whenever they need parenting, just as much as he needs to coordinate and manage their music roles. His role transitions more to that of a parent as we move along to the franchise history, but here it feels pretty even. The first show, I mean, it sure was. Half-hour long episodes. It would have a short first half with a song included, followed by a short second half with a song included, and then in the middle, you had an unrelated story following Clyde Crashcup, who's like the silly inventor guy. His whole gimmick is inventing things that already exist, but making them silly. This got a few comics. This was meant to rot in the 60s, and you can tell. It's weird. The entire show just feels inauthentic. It really just acting as a way to make as much money as possible. Like, this entire show relied on sponsors under General Foods to stay afloat. The songs only existed to sell records. This is such a nothing show. It's kind of goofy for that. Otherwise, it's just the family hanging out in their house and occasionally making music, yelling at Alvin for being a nuisance. And again, finding footage for all these episodes felt like holding a funeral for a balloon for the amount of useless misery it brought upon me. It lasted from October 1961 to September 1962, ended after 26 episodes, barely even a full year. And then we take a break. There's a big gap around here in time. Albums were pretty confidently sent out across this time until January 16th, 1972, when Bagdasarian passed away to a heart attack at 52 years old. This in turn put the franchise on hiatus for 7 years until 1979, because Bagdasarian was the voice of Dave and all the Chipmunks, only continuing again when Ross Bagdasarian Jr. took the mantle, and he proceeded to do the exact same thing, voice all the characters, do all the music. It's truly a miracle that Simon the Chipmunk with glasses was able to survive such a halt in his music career. Like, nobody could do that besides, like, the Wiggles or Kiss. These are the only three that are immune to time. Yeah, this return would obviously lead to more music, but you don't care. You're staring at the screen absolutely dumbfounded because I'm not jingling keys and flashing colorful colors full of cartoon characters. You need animation to distract you from my grating voice. So in 1981 came the grand animation return via A Chipmunk Christmas. In terms of a time skip, the main gang began to morph, to contort. They've gone from the flat Hanna-Barbera style and warped into something of more dimension. They're rapidly evolving to prepare their entry into the real world. Alvin has grown. The hate within him has allowed him to become the second largest chipmunk. Theodore has fully become the little rotund fellow we know and love. In this special, a doctor tells this family that their kid, Tommy, he's not gonna feel better for Christmas, so that sucks. Meanwhile, Alvin gets his privilege checked. He's pissed about the fact he has to sing during Christmas. The only reason he's satisfied is that he can play his iconic gold harmonica. This is a new character trait for him, by the way. Alvin loves his harmonica, yeah, Simon still has glasses. The kiddos go Christmas shopping. Alvin overhears Tommy's family talking about the exact golden harmonica Alvin has and how that would make the kid feel better. He gives it away out of kindness to the sickly child, even though he's probably reaping like at least millions of dollars off of royalties and stuff. By the way, did you know that Viacom might be looking to sell the Chipmunks franchise for $300 million? Someone please open a GoFundMe, I will support you. The rest of the special is the Chipmunks trying to make as much money as possible without Dave knowing he gave up the harmonica so they can buy a new one. And this leads to the ever iconic third act misunderstanding breakup in animation. Alvin gets given a new harmonica by Miss Claus, who just shows up and goes home. This is a character that exists. Santa is real. Dave's proud of his trouble child for doing a good. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's a pretty traditional Christmas adventure with the intention of selling more music. Charlie Brown, but worse. But hey, this did well enough. So much, in fact, that it would generate another show. In 1983 was the start of the very basically named Alvin and the Chipmunks series. It ran for 8 seasons somehow, got full redesigns of the entire cast through Moving Animation Studios partway, and generally is responsible for a good chunk of franchise legacy. As for a story, as for adventure, as for what you gotta know, I don't know how else to put this. These are just children. To be fair, musical children, but these are child celebrities, and all I could think about when looking at this show was how the first movie illustrated the hellscape of Hollywood and the greater music industry taking advantage of younger talent through a rat with their initial on their shirt, which I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you're wearing the first letter of your name as merch, you deserve to be shoved into a locker. With that being said, let me know if I should make this into merch. I will do it. Average episodes juggle real challenges kids face, along with what I would only describe as career problems, I guess. A few new characters that we're gonna start seeing fairly often show up. First off, the Chipettes, the girl counterparts of the main trio. They get introduced in the first episode, and by the end, they're like close friends slash potential romantic partners slash not siblings, but live so close to each other and do so much stuff together that they're basically seen like siblings. It's very complicated, I don't like it. You got Brittany, the Alvin one. Jeanette, she's got glasses, just like Simon. It was always meant to be. And then you have Eleanor, that's supposed to be the Theodore counterpart. In the first episode, she eats plastic fruit to pregame before a performance. That gives you an idea of what she's like. The first episode is just funny, just seeing how batshit some of the plots are about to get. Like, the first ever episode is just the boys trying to bring Dave's antique pocket watch to a show and tell until some bullies steal it, and then they have to recruit Mr. T for assistance, which is then followed up by a story where the Chipmunks meet the Chipettes in a hotel. Both believe they're the famous Chipmunks performing there. The Chipettes get to perform and the entire crowd just starts screaming and booing at them to get off the stage. Like, everyone knew this was for the Chipmunks. Why did you get on the stage if you knew you were not welcome there? How do you even miscommunicate that? Actually, a bit unrelated, we do know about the upbringing of the Chipettes. The episode The Chipette Story follows the three growing up in an Australian orphanage. They had a friend named Olivia who was doing their best to keep the infant Chipettes alive, even though they're like actually chipmunk sized. I don't know at what point they reached the size of young children, but regardless, it scares me. The Chipettes sneak over to America for the remainder of their lives, where they begin working odd jobs to try to get by. Eventually, they see a rise to fame like all squeakers do. I would know from firsthand experience. But yeah, so like the Chipettes have talent, but they're broken homeless. No other family other than that. Very, very sad. Still does not justify them trying to take their performance from Dave and the Chipmunks, but somehow it works out because they buy the coolest, awesome treehouse available that eventually gets left behind because later on they become neighbors of Dave, and they get his neighbor to be their guardian. Her name is Miss Miller. At the start of season 4, she becomes way more prominent. This is such a funny freaking character. Like, you have this nice and kind of forgetful elderly woman being dragged into the rodent hellscape in this corrupted industry. When you can see it in her eyes. She She is a kind neighbor. She is built for making sweet treats for everyone on the block. Why is she caught in any of this? She did nothing to deserve any of this. So I'm gonna be real with you fellas. I like this show. I think it's very fun, very nice, pretty traditional cartoon around this point, but there's really nothing here. Plus this is episodic, so you can skip most of the basic episodes that you would see in other animated franchise, like pulling a scheme to impress a girl. That doesn't need to be recapped. Plus I would feel awful for anyone who has Alvin as a partner, let alone a life partner. Give him 30 years and he'll become a celebrity who desperately needs rehab. All right, so to make up for this, what I did was I went through all the interesting episodes and I just want to summarize the funniest highlights I could find. Here we go. Theodore gets mistaken as an alien. Investigators capture him and attempt experiments on him. The Chipmunks lie about being from Nashville for a chance to sing with Dolly Parton. Alvin swaps places with a wild chipmunk and a hunter tries ending his life. The Chipmunks pretend to be old to enter a gym that's cheaper based on your age. Alvin tries to get the Queen of England to let the Chipmunks play at Buckingham Palace to impress a random woman. Alvin gets pissed at Dave when he starts dating Alvin's new teacher when he has a crush on her. The Chipmunks start their own fire department and endanger themselves for no reason. Dave starts dating his ex's little sister who's in college, much to the boys' dismay. Alvin gets jealous of Simon's popularity, specifically in Australia, and gets them lost in the outback. The Chipettes accidentally make Miss Miller a compulsive gambler and she goes to Vegas. Alvin sees a psychologist. Alvin gets a job at the zoo to buy a $700 transportation robot. I thought you guys were rich. Why can't you just buy that on your own? Alvin uses Simon's time machine that he has for some reason, brings George Washington to the future where it almost changes all of American history forever, like that one Jimmy Neutron episode of Thomas Edison. They stole it from the future. Chipmunks discover the fountain of youth. Chipmunks get shrunk and enter Dave's brain to inform him. There's 3 episodes about characters shrinking, by the way. This got its own box special. Here's a fun one, directly quoted from the Wikipedia too. Theodore encounters a stray kitten that entered through an open window in the house. He and the boys take an instant liking to the kitten, and after some compromising, they name the kitten Cookie Chomper III. And after Dave is cured of his allergy to cats, he comes to like the kitten as well. After this, Cookie Chomper gets run over by a car and dies. The boys have a hard time dealing with it. Eventually, they get a new pet, a puppy they name Lily. Why would you make an episode about this? There's 2 outliers that freaking tickle my fancy. The first one about Vinny in the special A Chipmunk Reunion. She comes back for like a single episode. It feels really weird for her to re-enter their lives at this point. Plus, this is such a brief appearance and the boys should absolutely spend more time recognizing how complicated the relationship with their mother should be right here, even with good intention. Vinny choosing to leave at this point makes it all the more complicated for the kiddos. I didn't expect Theodore to have such a rough upbringing, but here we are. There's also an uncle character. I forgot what his name is. It's later in the script. I will stay tuned for when I remember the uncle's name. And then the second one, season 8, episode 1, is about the trio going back in time to meet their classic counterparts. Now, otherwise, the majority of season 8 is just movie parodies, but here's a generally compelling story about Clyde Crash Cup coming to the future and letting the modern and classic counterparts swap places for a bit. So here's a stupid trope. If you're gonna let time travel happen, if you have a linear established timeline with 2 versions of the same character that are gonna meet each other, by the way, this is established to be a linear timeline where like acting in the past does impact the future, then why wouldn't the older counterparts not remember this exact situation playing out? This raises so many questions. It's a dumb plot hole. I hate time travel stories. They're so complicated. It's like this in multiverse stories. Everyone is so insistent on doing one or the other or both. And the implication here is that they've been children for 40 years. The average chipmunk life expectancy is like 2. This was a horrible investment for Dave to begin with. Also, they keep referring to themselves as the 50s versions of themselves when these designs dropped in the 60s. I thought they'd be smart enough to remember that, but to be fair, they've been in school for over 40 years. I shouldn't be shocked. And that was the show, or the first one at least. Honestly, I just thought we could save some time because there's not much to take away from most of these episodes. The ones that were closer to the slice of life, if anything, you know, they're fine. It just so happens that occasionally they forget to do that whole slice of life thing and have specials, but the specials around this time were also cool, though most of them were episode compilations, aka we don't care and we can ignore them and we can move along. There was also the holiday specials, aka we can ignore them, though they had some ones that stand out on their own. First one, the most obvious one, Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue, where all your favorite cartoon characters pull a subspace emissary against all the easily abusable substances that can ruin lives. Instead of the ancient minister, it's marijuana, and instead of Sonic the Hedgehog, Hedgehog coming in to save the day at the very end. It's former President of the United States, George Bush. And then George Bush, he looks at the camera and he says something silly along the lines of, "This video is sponsored by Raycon." Now fellas, sometimes I gotta hear stuff with my hearing holes, and Raycon's been a huge help to students like me. They're accessible, affordable, and convenient lightweight earbuds that I've been using while walking, cooking, working out, and overall, they've been a fantastic time. With plenty of battery life and a snug design, you can't go wrong. Plus, I mean, they look pretty cool too. Plenty of colors and case options, works wonderfully with the whole package. I've been really satisfied using Raycon earbuds as my earbuds of choice. They've very naturally integrated into my daily life. I can't quite imagine not having them anymore. I've especially been using them while studying for classes or editing videos like this one. I truly recommend them. They have been kind and reliable to me. They feel wonderful in my little Choopo head. And you know what, fellas? I got a deal for you. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/ChoopoOpen to get 30% off the Essential Open earbuds. That's buyraycon.com/ChoopoOpen. Please check them out. This supports the channel. Thank you for listening. And now back to the video. Next, you had 1987, The Chipmunk Adventure. You ever get a whiff of nostalgic air? Chipmunk Adventure was my shit. I had this on DVD. Little Choopo loved this freaking one. I loved it so much. I took my sibling's spot on the couch one time to watch it, and in response, they pushed me off and broke my feeble little 4-year-old arm. And because the Lord wanted to make 2008 the worst year of my life, instead of wearing a stupid cast on my arm, I could have been buying a house in the declining market. But no, now my elbow hurts every time I push more than 80 pounds. So great. Dave goes to Europe on a business trip for a month. Don't know what kind of business. I feel like managing his musical children would be the priority. Now Miss Miller's gonna take care of the boys along with the Chipettes. All 6 of them start playing this arcade game called Around the World in 30 Days because I guess 80's too much to handle. 2 criminals overhear the children bickering. International diamond smugglers Klaus and Claudia Furstein offering them a race around the world for $100,000. $100,000 in the 80s or 90s is pretty, that's pretty good. Okay, you know what, fair enough. The Chipmunks manage to trick Miss Miller into thinking Dave wants to meet the kiddos in Europe. No idea what the Chipettes did here. Let's just assume they're motel hopping at this point. The nefarious twins have both teams navigate all across all kinds of fun locations with the intentions of trading dolls of the other teams with dolls of their teams. But this is a scheme to easily smuggle diamonds for money without raising questions. Don't know why you let children operate a hot air balloon with what I would assume is millions of dollars worth of supply and cash. Don't know why you think nothing's gonna go wrong. No clue why these kids need more money. You've seen the record sales firsthand. Dave, you need to up their allowance. This is bullshit. So while they travel across the world and drop off diamonds, each party has to deal with their own problems and are generally fighting for their lives. For example, Furstein's butler, Mario, is an informant for this guy Jamal, but he's a good guy. He's like an Interpol inspector. The Chipettes have their first delivery in the Bermuda Triangle, and that's a horrible place to keep money. Gotta dodge being spotted by Dave in Athens. Chipettes are caught by mercenaries. Brittany almost has to marry a prince, but the Chipettes escape with a baby penguin. Meanwhile, the Chipmunks are captured by a native tribe in Theodore's almost sacrifice, somehow being rescued by the Chipettes at the perfect time, which, like, they were in a random jungle in the middle of nowhere-topia. How did you know where they were? How did you do that? How did you predict that? So all the characters, including Dave, show up in the LA International Airport. They almost, I'm pretty sure it's LAX. I've been there. It's pretty, yeah, this looks like LAX. They almost get abducted, taken as celebrities. How were these child stars able to skip work and school for a month straight? Could not tell ya. Movie ends with Klaus and Claudia going to prison and everybody going home without deciding a winner. This is a fun movie, but damn, it's really dumb. Surely the franchise won't get any wackier from here. 1999, Alvin and the Chipmunks meet Frankenstein. The gang are performing at a theme park, Majestic Movie Studios. They get lost in the park, go to Frankenstein's castle attraction where the very real Frankenstein is making a monster. His name is Frankie, and Frankie is nice. He is a good friend and learns to be kind. He's a kind soul, but Dr. Frankenstein hates that, and he kidnaps Alvin, starts experimenting with the creature. I feel like most governments would, you know, it's a talking music thing named Alvin. You definitely want to, like, look at his organs. Alvin is turned into a little mischievous, naughty guy. Simon and Theodore cure him with a potion. Frankie beats the hell out of his creator, and Frankenstein gets a new job as the park mascot. We never hear or see these characters ever again. Oh, you thought that was it? No. 2000, they meet the Wolfman now. Alvin has reoccurring nightmares about the Wolfman being real, and it doesn't help when he gets a new neighbor named Lawrence Talbot, who is quite famously known for being the Wolfman. So he causes a ruckus at school. Dave takes Alvin's monster collection. Holy shit, Theodore gets bitten by a canine of some sorts and starts turning into a little wolf of himself. So now Alvin and Simon start looking for a cure, steal Talbot's silver cane. That doesn't work. Talbot turns to Wolfman, chases Alvin around the school. And Eleanor, by the way, the Chipettes are in this movie, but they don't do anything. She has this crystal necklace thingy that lets Theodore remember who he is. Theodore bites the Wolfman. I guess both of them are cured from that. And nobody cares. They were also trying to like juggle a side plot about a school play, which like, why does any of this matter? You have clearly different career paths. The movie ends with Talbot replacing the former principal so she can have a less stressful job testing bridges in South America. We will never see or hear any of these characters ever again. Okay, that was a bit of a weird intermission, but here comes more whiplash. In 2002, Universal breached their contract with Bagdasarian Productions. There's not a plan with the rodents for a little bit. They don't know what to do. The only real piece of media that was dropped is the 2004 straight-to-DVD puppet adventure Alvin and the Mini-Monks, and let me tell you, this is blasphemy in the Chipmunks timeline. These are prime puppet creatures, don't get me wrong, love the Chipmunks, but this is meant to be like a collection of little stories following the Chipmunks as they temporarily live under the care of Dave's dear friend that we've never heard of, Lalu. And this is stupid because we already know the Chipmunks and Chipettes, they don't meet each other at the age of infancy. And also, the Chipettes wouldn't attain this quality of life until way further down the line. The Mini-Monks goes directly against all we have seen beforehand and therefore cannot happen in this continuity, and there's already a separate universe following the Chipmunks and their live action counterparts. I am not making another universe for the puppets. Plus, this is a baby show. This is like for little kids. There's no narrative or love or loss or familial confusion with relationships of former caregivers. I like the other cooler stuff going on. It's not important. And then we have the live action adaptation starting up in 2007, nearly 50 years since the debut. So like, with all due respect, the movies stand out as the modernized beacon of the Chipmunks. Without this quadrilogy of confusion and senselessness, there would not be any discussion of the franchise today. As movies, they're fine. You know, the Chipmunks have usually just been fine. But this is nice, even ignoring all the shitposts that have forever changed who I am as a person. Plot-wise, the three Chipmunks start in the woods, their home gets cut down, becomes a Christmas tree for this place, Jet Records, where Dave's having his demo rejected by chief executive Ian Hawke, by default the best character in these live-action movies. Yeah, and even though they're friends, Dave's a little pouty pants about it. He steals a muffin basket the Chipmunks were in. So he goes home, he finds the kiddos, finds out about their musical talent. They all make a successful song. The Chipmunks ruin a date for him. This then causes conflict between both parties, has Scary Man Ian trying to take them away for his own benefit, and ultimately they resolve all conflict when Dave and the Chipmunks decide that family's far more important and continue to grow from there. And this is unironically a very good adaptation of the original source material. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the first movie is a combined loose recreation of not only how the Chipmunks met Dave, but just like the show in the 80s, but also combines aspects of how Bagdasarian rose the brand to fame, recreating moments like Christmas Don't Be Late becoming a hit. I thought this was gonna be like the Smurfs or the M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender movie, where they just cherry pick whatever the hell they want, but no, this is just a genuinely accurate recreation of the Chipmunks' origins, and really not for any other reason. So the one uncle from earlier, his name is Uncle Harry. I remember that now. Thank you, script. He is combined with the one guy in the original animated episode. They are combined into Ian as a character. He gives the Chipmunks have awful stage fright. Dave gets fired from this job. Overall, he's losing reasons to keep the Chipmunks around. So the trio try to make amends by having a meeting with Ian. He adopts them when Dave can't decide if he wants to be a caretaker or not. Then they live under Ian, where he's like drugging them with coffee and shit. Dave's not trying very hard to make bank off the Chipmunks. Ian's taking it too far. Doesn't help that Ian's like lying about Dave not caring for the Chipmunks, and it gets worse when like a 12-month international tour's announced, which might I add is that's crazy. Like that's actually too much. But regardless, doesn't matter. Dave and his girlfriend character, who will never show up again, I think her name's Claire. Everyone's reunited right before Ian takes them to Paris for the start of the world tour. Ian's career gets ruined forever, and this takes us straight to the sequel. And this takes us straight to the squeakquel. 2 years later in 2009, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore are all performing in Paris finally. Suddenly, a cardboard cutout of Alvin launches Dave across the stage like he's specifically 90% in a Smash Bros game. Dave is physically unable to take care of the boy, so he gets his Aunt Jackie to do it. But remembering this character could have easily been Miss Miller, and ashamed that she's not, she falls down the airport stairs in her wheelchair, also making her unable to take care of the boys. 2 major injuries 7 minutes into this movie. That's great. So instead, Dave's cousin Ian, Toby's gotta do it, and he's a gamer. I guess that's his character trait. Meanwhile, Alvin and the Chipmunks are able to reuse villains better than the MCU ever will. Ian discovers this rendition of the Chipettes, and all of them are gonna be going to this high school terribly named West Eastman High. Almost every single cliche high school trope occurs. The jocks are bullies. They gotta save the music program. Battle of the bands, forbidden love, football, gotta play a big game, football. The Chipmunks and Chipettes compete in Battle of the Bands to save the music program. Friendly reminder, it's probably not safe to have these celebrities in a public school. I didn't realize they were in high school either. Remember, this is gonna be important. Alvin converts to jockism and it forces Simon and Theodore to drop out of the contest. The Chipettes win but can't compete because Ian's gonna force them to be the opening act for a Britney Spears concert. Personally, this is just me though, I think that one is better than the other. I would rather go to the Britney Spears concert, but whatever. Meanwhile, Theodore runs away to the local zoo in order to join a meerkat family. He fails. And then Ian steals the Chipettes, then there's a big chase scene, and then partway through, Alvin gets help from who is that? What is that thing? That is Digby, and Digby is from NASCAR land. He's known for being the gopher cam. He has some little animations connected to him, implying there's even more humanoid CGI animals in the world, and that's something I couldn't even fathom at this point. When it comes to Digby, he's basically like NASCAR Alvin. I don't know, I don't know. I'm not poor and stupid. The most exposure I have to NASCAR is Danica Patrick in that one Sonic game. Wow, the good guys win. Wow, Ian thinks doing this in front of thousands of people is a good idea. His career's now double forever ruined. Hooray! And now the Chipettes are not to live with Miss Miller in this version, but instead they all share a house with Dave. You know, Dave, a guy in his 30s with a bunch of rats for his family that are not supposed to be siblings. These are not siblings, and yet I don't know if that's beneficial or detrimental to his love life. 2011, Shipwrecked. Another 2 years later, the Seville family all go on a cruise on their way to the International Music Awards as a way to have a lovely family trip. Too bad Alvin ruins it like in 15 minutes. If this took place in the modern day, Alvin would 100% associate with the Paul brothers. Dave plans to apologize to the captain over dinner, especially as a high priority guest of the trip, but somehow Ian managed to get a job as a cruise line mascot on this exact cruise. What are the odds? Like truthfully, what are the odds? As Dave confronts Ian being perfect foils to each other, a rivalry for the ages, truly a story of David and Goliath. Alvin and Simon hit the casino, and the Chipettes go to the club, and I don't remember what Theodore does. Anyway, now they're all banned from the fun activities on the ship outside of the shuffleboard, and the kids, knowing that being restrained with nothing but shuffleboard on a vacation is a punishment worse than death, decide to take their chances jumping overboard, and Ian and Dave fall over as well. There is really not an effort to be made to mitigate anyone from falling overboard. I'm pretty sure so many people on the ship would have their careers ruined for this instance. By pure luck, all of them land on the same island and meet a castaway named Zoe. At the gate at her treehouse, just a complete disaster. The island is not friendly to the Chipmunks. Eleanor injures her ankle. That's her character trait this movie. Simon becomes Simone upon being bit by a spider and exposed to its venom. Just temporarily makes him a French adventure warrior guy. And then along the way, Simon attacked and won a fight against his high school bully jocks. I just fully believe he's the strongest in canon. Within days, so much happens to the Chipmunks. Alvin and Brittany realize the island's volcano is expected to erupt soon. Jeanette is having personal complications, wondering if she prefers Simon over Simone or vice versa. And Theodore is happy to be included. Most importantly, Simone discovers treasure behind an island waterfall, prompting Zoe to knock out Simone, turning him back to normal, and capturing Jeanette to get the treasure because humans can't reach it. And why do all these stories involve capturing chipmunks? Every time. All of the movies have done this so far. It doesn't matter. Volcano erupts. Everyone chooses life over treasure. They escape on the raft they made in advance. And Zoe is in disbelief because apparently she spent like 10 years looking for the treasure. So like, me personally, I wouldn't take that. You know, I would probably snap at that point. And once again, works out in the end. They make it to the music award. Everyone has a lovely dance party ending. And somehow in the short amount of time, Ian was able to revive his career through screenwriting and selling Hollywood Zoe's story, making him just as rich as he once was somehow. Okay, and this just leaves us with 4 years later, 2015, the road trip. All 6 of the kiddos throw a Roger Kefley level party. It goes trending on Twitter. Dave puts his foot down. The Chipmunks are all gonna be taking some time off being normal kids, and now you've missed that window. I mean, if they were in high school back in 2009, then by at this point, they would at least be in their early 20s. I would assume they're old enough to realize they don't have to follow Dave from restraining their careers as much as he is protecting them, because God only knows what would happen if Alvin found some sniffy fun dip in front of him. So then from there, Dave puts more of an effort into spending more time with his kids, but not the Chipettes, because they gotta go judge on American Idol across the country. Clearly he's picking favorites, but let's not worry about that. Anyway, they go mini golfing where Dave reveals he's been dating this new woman, Samantha. She has a son, his name's Miles, and the Chipmunks hate him with a burning passion. Don't worry, it's mutual. Then Dave reveals he's gonna take Samantha to Miami for a business trip to produce for this one rising star. Her name's Ashley Gray, where the Chipmunks and Miles realize, oh my God, he's gonna propose from there. We're gonna be stuck as siblings forever. I mean, they just had, that sounds awesome. I wanna live with the Chipmunks. I love Simon's vibe. We have a new antagonist. This is Air Marshal James Suggs, who was a horrible boyfriend, lost his partner on Christmas, and blames the Chipmunks for his downfall, and as punishment, they are thrusted onto the no-fly list. Stranded in Texas, by the way, Theodore accidentally freed a bunch of animals on a plane. They had to make an emergency landing. This is the funniest movie of all time by recapping the story, so let me just run this down for you as the finale of all these live-action movies. They escape the airport after performing in a bar. Miles talks about how his dad left him while he was young. The boys perform in a Mardi Gras parade to make money to travel to New Orleans. Suggs is chasing after them and gets drunk off moonshine. The Chipettes, they're still in American Idol. They're doing American Idol stuff. They never got mentioned after the start of the movie. Everyone gets back together. Alvin steals the proposal ring, and according to their logic, the proposal is therefore impossible. And then Miles gets upset because he grew fond of his potential brothers, almost gets hit by a car. Theodore tanks the hit instead, raising a new counter-argument over who's the strongest in canon. My argument is that Simon has the highest attack potency, Theodore has the highest durability, and Alvin has the highest speed. Turns out the ring wasn't for Dave, it was for his pal Barry. Remember Barry? I love Barry. I very much remember the character Barry. And then Miles and Samantha fly home, and then Miles starts dating Ashley Gray, and then Dave realizes after 8 years he hasn't technically adopted the Chipmunks, so he actually gets on that. Not the Chipettes though, still in American Idol land. Movie ends with Alvin forgetting he had squirrels act as body doubles for the boys in the house. Sure. And so they never made one of these things ever again. Maybe having your movie launch on the same day as a new Star Wars trilogy wasn't the greatest of plans. Maybe you should have thought about that. Gotta say, when it comes to the live action adaptations, I wouldn't even say the Chipmunks were bad across the run. They were kind of so basic that virtually anything could have been done with them, and the general audiences would have been cool with it. It's not like the Smurfs where they do whatever feels right, like them going to New York for some reason. Both of them are despicable. In my opinion, neither live action adaptation should exist, but objectively, the Smurfs one is just awful. Smurfs should have never gotten popular overseas. It should have been like Tintin or Asterisk and Obelix. I will never forgive Smurfs for being more popular than Asterisk and Obelix. I love them so much. But then that just leaves us with one teeny tiny itty bitty little show to cover, and then we can all go home. I'm gonna throw up. 2015. Alvin! And the Chipmunks. There's 259 separate 11-minute sections across 5 seasons of the show. That equates to roughly 2,849 minutes, which translates to roughly 48 hours of CGI chipmunk content for the consumer to endure. I did something I regret. I wanted to catch up on One Piece in these past few months. Currently, I'm at the end of Dressrosa, but instead I watched all the Chipmunk stuff, and to my crushing dismay, this is episodic, mostly whatever, out of context, the funniest shit imaginable. For the sake of my convenience, I will once again be ignoring all the pointless fodder in 98% of these segments, following the children being children, developing crushes, studying for the big test, being part of the school play, saving money for a new toy even though they're rich, and having minute familial problems. Instead, I will be exclusively noting some of the moments that left me in awe of what this has become. They have once again become child-sized, and the world should quiver at what I'm about to utter. Ahem. Alvin loses his voice and swaps places with a baby Tasmanian devil due for an appendix surgery. He looks horrifying. The Chipettes almost lose their awesome freaking treehouse because of rotten neighbors. They don't live with Miss Miller in this continuity. Dave, by the way, he doesn't look like a Dave anymore. That's not a Dave face. It's what a Thomas or a Ben looks like. Dave gets addicted to an MMORPG, but accidentally makes his username his home address, which allows for his enemies to personally attack him. Dave failed a math class in high school, and years later, even after getting a college degree, has to come back to his kids in high school. Alvin accidentally disintegrates Theodore's bike. The Chipmunks participate in an ecology contest where the prize is an environmentally harmful flight to Hawaii that contradicts itself. Alvin has to prove that a dog stole all of the phones in his classroom. Theodore starts taking care of a dragon egg. This is real. Dragons are real in this universe. Alvin and Simon have to stop a toy creator from hosting a superhero contest that's using that as an easy way to steal ideas. Brittany has to protect an endangered toad that latches onto her face. Alvin successfully rage baits teacher into quitting her job. The Chipmunks lose a 1v1 to this kid named Bo Carter Humphrey in a video game because they have a shitty PC. They're successful successful musicians just buy a better PC. The boys then create a new PC that causes an energy crisis. Alvin and the Chipmunks have to fight their Metal Sonic variants. Calvin and the Hitmonks, that's real, they're robots. Simon accidentally programs a robot baby that attacks the class. Simon ceases to exist and everyone gaslights Alvin. Simon accidentally makes an evil plant that thrives on negativity. Simon accidentally makes a black hole device. Simon, please stop making shit. Alvin becomes an enemy of the government upon discovering Meteorite, even though he was lying for his scheme. Dave recalls being in a band of his own. This is actually just a good parallel to the Chipmunks, actually. Like, Dave is supposed to be the Alvin equivalent. Theodore becomes emo upon burning his tongue and losing the ability to eat. By the way, I despise this Theodore design. He went from a genuine guy who likes boating to an iPad kid, and I hate it. Theodore loses his memory upon being struck by lightning. Alvin wastes his entire summer playing a video game. It was probably like League of Legends or Destiny or something stupid. Dave gets cyberbullied. Theodore is mistaken for an elf and gets shipped to the North Pole. Dave is turned into a teen where Alvin realizes they're really similar. Again, I really like the idea of Dave and Alvin being parallels. This would be a good ending for Alvin. Simon gets bullied so hard he's afraid of entering school bathrooms. Simon makes a video game and Jeanette reprograms the villain at the end. The Chipmunks are booked as pets for a petting zoo birthday party attraction. Eleanor learns that history had few female knights and enters a knight competition. I forgot she was in the show. Theodore drowns. He just drowns. The series ends with them embarking on a world tour and remembering all the fun times they had across the series, which, to be fair, like, based off everything I said, they had an incredible life. I hold nothing but envy for what are adjacent to possums. It is a basic, boring cartoon, and honestly, most CGI ones like this tend to be. There's plenty of reused scenes in the same collection of characters and backdrops, but most of them amount to nothing. A lot of this is just nothing. This really amounts to the characters could have been replaced with any other characters, any other, like, made-up series, and it would have led to the same kinds of stories and events. Alvin has a teacher rivalry. There's a few returning classmate characters, but overall, it's just nothing. Dave doesn't even yell Alvin anymore like he always does. That was such an iconic bit, but now he just goes more like, Alvin, stop doing that. See, the magic of having another 8-season show with the same characters and settings and basic plots is that you can recycle most of the original plots and nobody will notice. But I did. I noticed it. I noticed it in so many of these episodes. In this show, there's like 30 episodes that is just about them taking care of random animals. This is a sloppy little franchise full of decay. I've seen firsthand at least like half a dozen times by this point this exact situation play out. Otherwise, that's kind of it. Alvin and the Chipmunks have roamed for 70 years at this point and truly don't have anything else going on other than a gimmick, and there's more to it, like the awful production behind the scenes, and there is a good number of live shows. That makes sense, they're musicians, but they could also do like the hologram thing like Miku or something. I don't know, most of this felt inauthentic and not like quality or memorability to continue this franchise. It's not like Scooby-Doo or something where the characters can all be inserted in all sorts of fun separate adaptations. The majority is just okay at best, and it becomes all the more confusing because now I ask, were the Chipmunks ever any good? I don't know. And that really sucks to say because I grew up with a decent amount of this show and this series, and yeah, I really don't know if I don't know if this is good or not. Honestly, I feel like a new live-action adaptation movie would be really funny right now. Do something like Alvin temporarily gets blacklisted or something. I wouldn't put it behind them. They're on the no-fly list for a reason. And Shipwrecked, I have ingrained in my memory for the fact we had a box copy of it, and it felt like it was on so goddamn often. I didn't even like the movie, I gotta add. I'm pretty sure this was the first movie where I realized, I don't like this. Why do we keep watching this? I think Alvin and the Chipmunks is more or less a victim of the world changing, even ignoring the diet nightmare fuel of a modern show. It's just a product of its time. It feels like the most cultural relevancy it gets is the fact that anyone can pitch up their voices and make shit posts out of them. Like Alvin getting stuck in a microwave, or which chipmunk is playing the best game of Trivial Pursuit. It's Simon, by the way. I added this part to the script for a $20 bet. I want my money, Brett. You can't really add to these characters because it's just a sad yet simple origin story. And all you can say is Alvin is the red one, and Simus is the blue one, and the green one I can't remember. No joke. The Chipettes just exist, and I think they do stuff on occasion. Dave just looks like a generic man, and I get that's the point. He's always been a generic guy, except for the first albums where he wants nothing more than to stomp out the rodent kin with his cleats. But hey, we've had a near-decade gap in the series entries, only a matter of time before something inevitably gets announced, and I don't think anyone's ready for it. If any higher up is listening or watching this, I am officially a lore master of Alvin and the Chipmunks. Please hire me for the next series or movie. I will make the best content in the history of Elvis and the Chipmunks. When I was 16, I watched a chipmunk kill itself by falling into a wood chipper. Anyway, here's my gamer subs. I'm almost at 500k subs. Be sure to subscribe. Okay, bye-bye now.